The next place I went to was another education place. I went to Queens College, which is a university, which is located in Queens, obviously. It's just on the other side, really close to the elementary school that I was at, actually. There's, again, it's another school like the high school. There were many famous people went to that are from that area, like what Paul Simon did, and he studied English there. Also, Jerry Seinfeld went to Queens College. Ray Romano did it as well, and Carole King, the songwriter, and also a guy named Robert Moog, who was the inventor of the Moog synthesizer, which was really the first big synthesizer that really took off in popular music. So seeing a college like that is just neat as well for me, being a university student that spends so much of my time inside of my own university campus. It's always neat to see other campuses, just to see, what it'd be like if you had gone to that school, and seeing, the sort of facilities that they have compared to what you're used to. So as I was leaving that area of Queens, I went past this really large cemetery. I was really amazed at how large it was. It was several blocks long and wide. It was just a big, huge piece of property that was just totally filled with burial stones. I couldn't believe how densely packed they were in there. I've never seen a cemetery so big and so packed. There wasn't any big grassy areas or fountains or anything. This was just all gravestones all the way filling this whole huge cemetery. So after leaving that area of town, I went over to Flushing Meadows, which is a really big park, or a pretty big park in Queens. It's actually called Flushing Meadows Corona Park. That's the full title. And when I first saw it on the map, I immediately recognized Flushing Meadows because that name is used in a Simpsons episode when Homer is driving somewhere and he obviously needs to use the washroom, and he keeps seeing things that remind him of washrooms, and he sees Flushing Meadows, which makes him have to go to the washroom even more. So Flushing Meadows is quite a big park, and it has I think there's 2 large lakes in the park, and I rode kind of around one of them, or around one side of one of the 2 lakes. And but what the Flushing Meadows Park is really known for is that it was the site of the World Fair, when New York had the World Fairs in both years, in 1939 and in 1964. So most of the pavilions from that are gone now, but there's still a few landmarks that were left behind. There's this big sort of globe statue sort of thing that's in a fountain. That was pretty neat to see. That's called the Unisphere, and I got a good look at that. It was just enormous, and the wind was blowing a little bit, and you could see on one side of the fountain all the mist was coming off of it. So by that point in the day, I was pretty hot and sweaty, having traveled so far, and I was just drinking water the whole day. It was really a hot day, and so after that I just kind of went through the mist, and I got all nice and cool from the cool mist from the fountain. So I knew from ahead of time, looking at maps, that just north of the Flushing Meadows Park was the Citi Field's stadium, where the New York Mets play, and it's also where the original Shea Stadium, which was there until a few years ago when the Citi Field was built, where the Mets played before that, and it was also where the Beatles played probably the biggest concert they ever played, was at Shea Stadium, where they had the stands totally full, and the Beatles only played for 30 minutes or something, and apparently the fans couldn't hear anything, but they still loved it, because the reason they couldn't hear it is because they were all screaming so loud. But unfortunately, that stadium's been torn down since they built this new one. That's just, how New York is. They like to build their new buildings, and their history just gets thrown away when it's not needed anymore. So anyways, when I got to the top of Flushing Meadows, I saw, there's a big stadium there. So I sort of got closer to it, and the closer I got to it, I realized that it really wasn't Shea Stadium, and it wasn't Citi Field either. It was some other stadium. And I kind of went past it a little bit. I saw another stadium, so I went closer to that, and that too was not Citi Field. And what they actually were was there's two tennis stadiums which are up there. And I read the sign, so I just, as I was approaching, I wanted to look at them anyways. And then I saw this big cluster in a parking lot that was just completely full of Mercedes-Benz cars and trucks and vans and every single type of Mercedes you've ever seen before, and they were all silver. And I thought, well, this is a little bit weird. Is this like a dealership where they park their cars? But why are they all silver? And then I got a little bit closer, and I saw on the cars, they all said, official car of the US Open. And then I realized, oh, right, the US Open is going on right now, and that's what those two big stadiums are for. And that's what all the cars were for, obviously, and that's why that area was so busy. Although I don't think anything was actually going on when I was touring around there, but there was lots of security and stuff like that in that area. But someone had told me in advance that when I told them I was going to New York City, and I told them I was going now, they said, "Oh, are you going there to see the U.S. Open?" And I actually had no idea that the U.S. Open was even going on, because I don't follow tennis at all. But after that, at one point I could see Citi Field, and I figured out which way I had to go. So I left the tennis area, and I went over to Citi Field, and I had already looked ahead of time, and actually, right as I was there was a Mets game going on. When I was at Yankee Stadium, there was nothing; it was dead. The Yankees were out of town playing a game somewhere else. But it was really exciting being at the stadium when the game was going on, because you could hear the crowd, and you could kind of see inside a little bit. It's a brand new stadium, just like Yankee Stadium that I saw. Both of them were just rebuilt a few years ago. But it was really neat seeing the game going on. Like, I could see a scoreboard at one point. And when I first got there, I could hear the commentator, and they said that the Mets were down 2-0, and it was like the 6th inning or something. And I kind of did a lap around the outside of the field. And there was a part where I could see the scoreboard. And all of a sudden, I heard the crowd just start cheering, like, really loudly. And it wasn't like, it didn't end in like an "oh" or anything like that. It just, the crowd, the excitement just kept going. So I figured the Mets must have scored a run. And I heard another thing like that too. So they must have scored another run. And then I saw the scoreboard, and I saw that they had tied it from 2-0 to 2-2. So it was a tie when I left. So anyways, I left that area of town, and I wanted to head up a little bit further north and a little bit further west, following the water mostly. So there's a little trail that I followed that went along the water, and that's right where LaGuardia Airport is, which is one of the two airports in New York. There's JFK and there's LaGuardia, and so I followed this water.